Good evening and welcome. Tonight is Monday, June 23rd, 2025. This is a regular meeting of the Minnetonka City Council. I will call this meeting to order and ask you to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Larson, would you please call roll?
Calvert.
Here.
Romaley.
Here.
Coakley.
Here.
Foster Bolton.
Here.
Shack.
Here.
Wilburn.
Here.
Wearsome.
Here. Next item is approval of the agenda, and I believe we have an addendum. Mr. Funk.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Do have one addenda item for your consideration. That's related to item 10C, which is currently listed as a consent item related to preliminary and final plat with floodplain alteration permit of Hidden Valley, 3rd edition at 16515 Hidden Valley Road. Staff recognized that after the packet went out that this item does require a public hearing. So in our code, anytime there's a vacation of an easement, it requires a public hearing. These don't happen very often, so staff missed that one. And so this addendum recognizes that information and recommend moving item 10C to item 13A, which is a public hearing. And that is your addenda for this evening. And then by shifting 10C to item 13A, then the rest of the consent items 10D and 10E have been shifted and are now 10C and 10D.
Thank you.
That made sense. So
It
thank
did
you.
make sense. We've got that.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. That's what you have for your consideration this evening.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Funk. Is there a motion? Councilmember Wilburn.
I move the approval of the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Foster Bolton.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Wilburn and a second by Councilmember Foster Bolton. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Calvert.
Yes.
Romaley.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Wearsome.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes. One is the 5A is the April 28th, 2025 study session minutes, and the second 5B is the June 9, 2025 regular meeting minutes. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I move approval of the April 28th, 2025 study session minutes and the June 9th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
And is there a second? Councilmember Coakley.
I'll second.
All right, so we've got a motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Coakley. I will add that I mentioned to Mike, Mr. Funk, that there was one small change. It was a one-letter change. The word neither became either. So we made that change today. So with that, Ms. Larson, would you please call roll?
Calvert.
Yes.
Romaley.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Wearsome.
Yes, motion carries. That brings us to special matters, and we have one special matter tonight, and that is a natural resources update about monarch and pollinator awareness and also a proclamation. So Ms. Yetka, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council members. For those who don't know me, my name is Leslie Yetka, and I am the Natural Resources Manager here with the City of Minnetonka. And I'm here to talk about our upcoming Monarch and Pollinator Awareness Month, which is the month of July. I'll give a brief update about pollinators and what we do to protect pollinators, and then I will turn it over to the Mayor to read the proclamation. So, if you want to just, let me get this screen here. And just to point out, I did put on here, there's a connection on this topic with the strategic plan for the council under sustainability, resilience, and natural environment. I think it's always good to connect these with what your priorities are, and so this certainly fits in with a priority related to protecting and managing our natural environment, because obviously pollinators are a very important part of that. So if you think back to your school age days when you probably studied about pollination and pollinators and flowers, we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of insects and other animals that pollinate plants. And so it's a really, even though it may not be seen as an important activity in our world, it really is actually very important. Pollinators provide essential services to us and our communities. Food production is extremely reliant on pollination. So most of what you eat somehow can be connected to pollinators and the work that they do in pollinating plants. They're important for basically sustaining our ecosystems, our natural environment. If you think of the habitats that we create, we do that to support pollinators, and they in turn bring in other creatures and wildlife, and it's really part of an important part of our Earth's ecosystem, and so they're very important for that. And then economic value. Pollination is really critical for agricultural services. If you see here, 200 to over $500 billion annually is derived directly from pollination. So the work of these insects is really important. However, the past decade or so, you've probably recognized that we are sustaining a loss of pollinators. And there's certainly a varied number of reasons for that happening. A big part is habitat loss and fragmentation. As you can see, we develop our landscapes. We lose some of the ability for the plants to grow and to really support those pollinators. Climate change and shifting temperature patterns, shifting seasons affects the flowers and when they bloom, and that really can impact the pollinators as well. Certainly severe storms, the drought, the heat we've had, it all sort of compounding factors. And then pesticides and chemical use. A lot of the food we eat and rely on actually does use and rely on pesticide use. That does have some unintended consequences related to pollinators and affecting the plants that those pollinators rely on. So they're important, it's an important service, and we are seeing a decline. And it really is, pollinators are thought of as being sort of those keystone species that really can give us, kind of wake us up to our environment and what's happening to our environment. So we really do want to pay attention. So to help pollinators, we really have two very simple goals in Minnetonka, and especially in the work we do in the Natural Resources Division. One is to provide more food. That's what pollinators need. They need more food. They need habitat to sustain their life cycles. So planting native flowers, shrubs, grasses, trees, they all play a role in supporting pollinators. So everything we do, we are always thinking about how do we get more food on the landscape. And then include milkweed. I didn't mention, monarchs are a really important sort of keystone and iconic species. They are a pollinator, they're a passive pollinator, but they're also something that really is another one of those canary in the coal mine species that reflects a lot of the loss that we've had in terms of habitat, impacts from climate change and such. So milkweed, or monarchs, rely on milkweed. They have to have the milkweed plant. So we really focus on planting milkweed whenever we possibly can. So it's really those two simple goals that we focus on. So I'll talk a little bit about how we do this. Projects and programs. We have two really main key projects that we focus our efforts on. One is the Mayor's Monarch Pledge. You've probably heard of this. The mayor signed on in 2017. It's a national program, and it's designed to really raise awareness about monarchs, the decline in monarchs, and how we can really help monarchs. And it consists of a number of action steps that cities who sign on can take. And I'll get into this a little bit more in a minute, but some of those action steps can range from, planting gardens to support pollinators to changing policy that really helps monarchs. And so those pledges that we take really encompass a lot of different action steps that we sort of agree to try to tackle. We also have the Resilient Minnetonka program. This is a program that's designed for private property owners in the city. It includes education resources, technical assistance, and even some incentives, and including a native plant sale. And one of the key goals there is to really get more food on the landscape and help people understand how to do that on their own property. We also, as you know, are undertaking a lot of habitat restoration efforts in our parks. Every time we do restoration, we're thinking about what are we putting back on the landscape and ensuring that trees we're planting, shrubs that we're planting, or areas that we're seeding after we remove buckthorn, that we're including plants that it can support pollinators. Our annual tree sale is another good example. We always think about what kinds of trees are important for the pollinators and those insects' life cycle. Make sure we offer some trees that can help with that process. So those are just some of the projects and programs. I want to go back to the Mayor's Monarch Pledge. We have participated since 2017. We are considered a Monarch champion. We have been for the past few years, and that means we have met every single action step in the program. We're the only 9th city to do that in the United States, and we're listed top in the report from the National Wildlife Federation, who runs this program nationwide. So that's really exciting. I think you should all pat yourselves on the back for that. Now back to some of the other things that we have in place. Policies and ordinances are another key piece not only of the Mayor's Monarch Pledge, but how we can actually impact habitat related to pollinators. So we have obviously the zoning ordinance. In that ordinance, we have a landscaping requirement that includes 25% native plants. And those plants come from a list that the city provides that is intended to support pollinators as well. We have a nuisance ordinance that you actually just updated not long ago, and that allows for residents to include native landscaping features in their landscapes. And again, that's another way to support pollinators. We also have our natural resources master plan. We have right-of-way mowing policies. We have policies around reducing chemical use whenever possible. Again, those are all designed to help pollinators as well as the rest of our ecosystems. Lastly, outreach and engagement. We do quite a bit of this. We have website content, not only on the City of Minnetonka website, but the Minnetonka Matters website. We have our Minnetonka memo, which we often will feature pollinators and how to protect pollinators and plant for pollinators. We have a natural resources e-newsletter and blog that we also use to disseminate information. We have handouts and flyers, and we also have public activities throughout the year, primarily in the summer and especially during Monarch and Pollinator Awareness Month, which is in July, which is obviously coming up. So with that, we are celebrating the 9th annual Monarch and Pollinator Awareness Month, which again is in July. We have a proclamation for that tonight, but we also have activities that are taking place that we've actually listed on the Minnetonka Matters webpage. We have a really valuable partnership with the Ridgedale Library, so we actually host quite a few events in conjunction with the library to really focus on library patrons and bring more people in. We have a native edible plant workshop coming up. Again, that's designed to support not only people, but also pollinators with plants that you choose. There's a pollinator party coming up at the Ridgedale, so I encourage you to all get out and go party with the kids. We'll be at the farmers market in July, several dates in July, supporting pollinators and helping educate people and having some themes and activities around pollinators, including a story time. And then we have a community reads event, this is new for us. We're actually promoting a book called The Serviceberry and then letting people read that and then also come in for a discussion. This is an important way to just engage residents and engage, in that case, primarily adults around this important topic. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Mayor, if you would like to read the proclamation.
Well, I will do that, but first of all, I wanted to thank you for all of your efforts. Pollinator Awareness Month is important, and pollinators are extremely valuable. We live in an agricultural state, and as you indicated, agriculture is both the problem and the opportunity for pollinators. And I'm very proud to be a part of the Mayor's Monarch Pledge. And I would like to say, well, gee, we signed up because I did it, but that's not true. Mayor Schneider, my predecessor, was the first mayor to sign up for the Mayor's Monarch Pledge, but I've been supporting it ever since I've been in this role, and I think it's extremely important. And so I'm pleased to read the proclamation.
Thank you.
So thank you for your good work.
Thank you.
So I'll read this, and then And then, council, if you have any questions for Ms. Yetka, we'll have an opportunity for that as well. So this is the City of Minnetonka Proclamation, Monarch and Pollinator Awareness Month, July 2025. Whereas more than 85% of flowering plants on Earth, including wild and cultivated species, require assistance of animal pollinators in order to produce seeds. And whereas globally, pollinators are in decline due to pressures including habitat loss, climate change, and increased use of chemicals. And whereas the monarch butterfly is an iconic North American pollinator whose eastern population has been reduced by at least 90% since 1996 and is being considered for federal protection as a threatened species, and whereas the United States Department of Agriculture and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service have declared the monarch to be a priority species for conservation because healthy monarch habitat benefits a wide variety of other species. And whereas individuals and communities can help save the monarch butterfly and other pollinators by planting native host and nectar plants and taking other steps to provide healthy habitat in yards, rights of way, and open spaces, now therefore be it resolved that the Minnetonka City Council hereby proclaims the month of July as Monarch and Pollinator Awareness Month in the city of Minnetonka.
Thank you.
So, thank you. And so, council, any questions for Ms. Yetka or comments? Well, I want to thank you. I mean, I think the awareness of this is really important. And I was talking to Mr. Funk today, and one of the things, anything we can do to plant more milkweed, I'm in favor of it. And if there are best milkweed gardening practices, I mean, I know it's a wild plant, and I know we can do it in rights of way, but if it makes sense for us to take, a small area in our landscaping or whatever and say, well, okay, I'm going to have a milkweed garden or whatever, if that would be helpful, if that's a good idea, I would just say let's figure out how to encourage people to do that, because I think the strength of the monarch butterfly and the fact that they've declined so much, they need a boost, and I want to do everything we can to boost them.
Thank you. And that did remind me, I did forget, I brought a prop. We actually hand out seed packets at the open house in the fall, and so anybody can come and get a seed packet. It does contain milkweed plus other valuable plants for pollinators. So with
Very
that,
good.
you can come in at the open house and get your milkweed seeds.
Thank you, Ms. Yetka, I appreciate it. And then Councilmember Rameli?
I think Councilmember
I just-
Calvert's first.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say, I am so proud that we are one of the first 9 cities to be a monarch champion city. And I was so proud when we changed our lawn ordinance to allow pollinator and other styles of yard, because turf grass is just kind of useless. Looks pretty, but that's, their flowers are actually prettier. So I just think we're doing so many wonderful things. And I'm just so proud of our natural resources staff and the other staff that enabled things like our native planting requirement for development, because that's how we're going to make the positive change. So thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then Councilmember Rameli?
Just a quick question, but also comment. I had a question recently from a resident regarding mosquito control and spraying and the effect of that on pollinators. And so wanted to ask that. And then just regarding milkweed, it's a pretty tough plant, I think you'll agree. So a great place to put it where we can create avenues for monarchs is even kind of your front yard near the roadways is a great place, and then we create boulevards, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yes, it is. That's absolutely true. To your question about mosquito control, every spring we get questions about mosquito control and what they're using and what these private companies are using, and somebody may complain that their neighbor is spraying. So the city cannot regulate the use of pesticides. That can only happen through the Department of Agriculture. So we can't go in and then, and basically regulate a company coming in and spraying on a private lawn. I've talked to the mosquito control. They use basically a bacterium that does basically kill the larvae of mosquitoes, and so that is the intended insect that it's supposed to to target. My understanding is, and what I've read, is there's not a huge impact on pollinators, unless something is relying on those mosquitoes, but that's very little. Pollinators technically are, I guess I should say, mosquitoes technically are a pollinator, of not a good pollinator as far as their propensity to pollinate, but so I guess you could say in one way that does impact pollinators. It's impacting the mosquitoes, but in general, for most of the insects that we are focusing on, it's not really a big impact.
Oh, the spraying isn't?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Anything else? Councilmember Foster Bolton?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate all my colleagues' comments, but also, it's such a relief, because my front yard, my husband has taken the whole lawn pretty much and planted native plants. And when he first started, it just was sort of that, at first it was like, oh, I thought too, it's ugly, it's messy, ugh. But now, more and more, it's just so much more important. And I drive through Minnetonka and see more and more lawns that look like that, and it is so heartening. It's so great. So I appreciate all the education and all the work you guys do. It makes me very proud. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yetka. All right, next up is reports from city manager and council members. Mr. Funk, you get to go first.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Again, good evening, Council. Just 3 things for you this evening. One, just this last Saturday, I want to give thanks to Mr. Jace Alexander, our senior DEI coordinator, for really orchestrating the Sounds of Blackness with our Juneteenth event. So happy Juneteenth for those that celebrated. I understand we had good attendance from the public, and I know a number of council members were there and other elected officials from other cities. So again, thanks to Mr. Alexander for our partnerships that we had with the community education, the City of Hopkins, and other groups for that great event, and perhaps some of you may comment on it as well, so thank you for that. And then this coming Saturday is our annual Summerfest, so just a big plug for our community, starting at next Saturday afternoon at the Civic Center. There's, as you know, for those that participate, we usually get thousands of people. Again, kind of the same type of venue and lineup in terms of food and beverages. We'll have bands playing, games for all the kids. So welcome everyone to come and partake, and we do end the evening with fireworks. And looking at the forecast, it looks to be upper 80s and only a 10% chance of rain. I know that's sometimes been our nemesis in the past, is dodging, I probably just jinxed it, yeah, dodging weather and
We don't
raindrops.
believe in that. It's going to be a great night.
It's going to be a great night. So again, I encourage everyone to come and be community this Saturday. And then last, just want to mention that with community development and our sustainable efforts, that we're getting towards the end of our free home energy audits for 2025. So there's some last opportunities for residents to get that free service. So please go on our website, or you can call and staff can help you. That ends signing up by June 30th. So another week or so before that opportunity ends for 2025. So with that, Mayor and Council, turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. Councilmember Wilburn.
Hi, so I'll quickly echo thanks to Ms. Yetka and excitement as us being Monarch City and protecting our pollinators. And also I wanted to echo Mr. Funk's thank you to Jace Alexander and the staff for putting on a wonderful Juneteenth celebration. Maybe next year we can order slightly cooler weather, but it was really a wonderful event, and it was heartening to see so many people turn out for that. And then finally, and I'm sure some of my fellow council members will want to speak on this as well. I know we released a statement as a council, but I feel it would be remiss to not acknowledge the tragedy that took place with the assassination of Melissa Hortman and her husband, and the shooting of Senator Hoffman and his wife. And I know, like, the people who need to hear this are probably not the people who are listening to me, but just obviously we don't condone violence, and but whatever your political leanings, whatever your political stance, when dealing with elected officials, these are human beings, and the place to settle your differences are not, and not a physical altercation or by making threats. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wilburn. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with all that. I will say, I think what was one of the things that was so impressive about Juneteenth is it really was blistering hot. And our staff, there's a guy that I know is pushing 70 himself and was there all day, out in the heat, just taking care of, setting up and making sure things were where they needed to be. And I thought it was a stroke of genius to have cooling scarves for people, keeping an eye out for people that looked like they were drooping a little bit, rushing up with cold water. So Mr. Alexander and the parks and staff and everyone that was there just did an incredible job. And it was something to see Sounds of Blackness in jumpsuits jumping around and singing their hearts out, literally in 100-degree heat. So I agree, if it was a little cooler, it would have been even better attended, but it was just wonderful. And the vendors also were a lot of fun. And I agree with my council member, and I will say, not only are public officials human beings, they're actually your neighbors. I'm your neighbor. I live in Minnetonka. When I knock on your door, I'm trying to find out from you what's important to you. And if you don't like the way I vote, don't vote for me. And then I won't be in office. That's how that works. You can even campaign against me. You can run against me if you want. But violence is not going to solve any problems as we can see in the world this week. There's a lot of violence in the world, and we don't need it here in Minnesota. And the people that were shot are people that I know personally, that I have personal relationships with, and I have personal relationships with people along the political spectrum. And so I just want to urge people, if you don't want to talk to me at the door, just say, you're not my flavor, and I will leave your door and I will not bother you. Or you can come to the city council and you can give me a piece of your mind or send me an email, but just keep it respectful. And just remember that public servants, whether you agree with them or not, put themselves out there. And when you are a state legislator or a Congress member or a school board member, you shouldn't have to be brave. The bravest you need to be is like, take a hard vote. That's how it's supposed to be. Not being brave because you might get shot by someone for just doing your job. So I just implore people to solve your problems at the ballot box. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Calvert. Councilmember Coakley.
Thank you, Mayor. I just also want to echo to Ms. Yecker. Sorry, I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Sorry. But I just want to echo my fellow council members in regards to the Minnetonka Monarch City. Over the last 5 years, I guess I learned more about pollinator plants and, what pollinator plants do for our earth. And I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to put a pollinator plants in my area on my land trust land, where I removed a tree. It's like and I put some bricks around it. And I keep saying every year, every summer, I'm going to put some pollinator plants there. So hoping to get it done soon. So I may contact you and say, what can I put where this huge tree was? What kind of plants I can put there? So I may contact you about that. Maybe this might be the summer, or maybe in the fall. I don't know when you do it, but you'll tell me. And then also, I also want to echo around the climate that we're in around, what happened to our elected official and, other family. It's just, disheartening, and you know, it really puts everyone in a form of grief, even though like maybe that's not your family member, maybe that's not your brother or sister, but it is your neighbor. And these are folks who are being elected officials and trying to do the best they can, and no one should have to lose their life behind being an elected official or just trying to be a public servant. And so I know this, you know, when it happened, it put me in a form of grief, and it just made me feel really sad, and you know, my family was sad, and they was afraid for me, you know, for my life, even though I wasn't the target person. But you know, it does cause harm across our state and across our country. And so I also want to say, you know, what happened to the days where you can have conversations and just talk things out. And you know, I actually addressed someone this morning on social media, you know, because I know Nakima Levy-Pounds had, well, Armstrong now, but she made some comments, addressed, you know, our state. And I know she made some comments about, you know, the safety of not just political folks, but also black and brown folks. And she said that, you know, our state could, our police officers, she addressed our police officers saying that there was good and there was some things that she felt like they could do better. And I don't think she was trying to personally attack our law enforcement. I think she was just saying, you know, there's always rooms for improvement, and I agree with that. No matter on what level we talk about improvement, what can we do to make things better? And I always think that we can do better in areas, and if we can't receive that as constructive criticism, then shame on us. And so there were some folks that was really speaking really nasty about her, and I've heard that this happened, but I had never seen it. And I, you know, and these folks was on my page. And when I went through the person's page, I looked at who else page was they on. And they were on some of our pages in our city. And I was just like, wow. And so to me, that indicated these are our neighbors. These are people that we know. And so I thought about that and I said, wow, didn't realize how bad it really is. And so I just want to encourage all of us to be careful. And if someone is on your page and they're talking about someone else who may not be your friend or just speaking ill of someone in that manner, then you have to think about that as a person. Like, who am I allowing to be on my page to speak about another human being in this way? And so I just want to encourage all of us, if we're going to be in contact or have them on our social media page, sometimes we just need to call things out. And I don't know this person because this person's on my page, but I just had to call this person out and tell him, like, this has not been my experience with her, and you should not be talking about this person like this, because if you're doing that and then a whole bunch of other folks said the same type of stuff, and that made me think about what could you be doing to me, you know, as an elected official or someone who don't agree with you. So I just want us all to think about that, and I just want all of us to be careful and, you know, pay attention to what's happening around us and who's on our page, because it gave me a red flag this morning. So just want to say that.
Thank you, Councilmember Coakley. Councilmember Foster Bolton.
Yeah, it's been a tragic couple of weeks actually, and it does. I mean, I just want to echo all my colleagues' sentiments around that. But I also wanted to talk about and commend the community development department. My son, who was 29 at the time, just in the spring had to have open heart surgery, and it was pretty serious. I mean, and he had to move back home and give up, you know, take work off for several months. And he started looking, you know, he's been in going through rehab, and he's doing well. But so he's needed to find a place to live. And he applied, he needed affordable housing because he hasn't worked for a while. And he's also self-employed. So he doesn't have, a pay stub. And they're just all these different proofs of employment. And he applied at several different places around Minnetonka in the west suburbs. And he was given a lot of misinformation and sort of the runaround. And he decided, actually, something that you said in one of the meetings, that he was going to try Minnetonka, even though, he knows his mom is a city council person, but he just assumed it was going to be too expensive here. And he had such a great experience, Ms. Wishnak, that it brings tears to my eyes right now, because it was such a hard winter and such a hard spring. And he went to the Vale, actually. And they not only, other places in Hopkins and in St. Louis Park, they would, it's like you have to fit into this window. And it's hard, and it's all over, it was over email and apps and whatever. And they, and some people kind of tossed their cities under the bus. But the Vale, he even asked one place, let me come in and explain to you, my income and stuff. And they were like, nope, you can't do it. But I'm telling you, he applied at the Vale, and they were so nice. And they had him come in and interview him. And they were like, no, right away they said, no, this is what we need, and you're going to apply, you're going to qualify. And they followed through, and he signed his lease, and he's moving out in July. So you think about, the city does all this great work and stuff, but you don't know until you know. And as a parent, I was like, oh, I knew we'd come through, but it was, I'm just very happy for him, and very happy to be living in a city that really does make things welcoming for people to live here. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Foster Bolton. Councilmember Romali. Oops. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go with Councilmember Shack, and then we'll go to Councilmember Foster Bolton. Good evening, Councilmember Shack.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Good evening. I just wanted to reiterate some of the things my colleagues said, or reaffirm that regarding the death of Melissa and Mark Portman. I also tragic, and the governor said yesterday, talked about toning down the rhetoric, and I think that's something that I'm going to take to heart. I think we're all just strive to be nonpartisan, and we do a pretty good job here in Minnetonka, but we can all take a little bit of grain about how we can show up in the world. Also wanted to indicate that I was talking to Patty Acom, and she had two comments. One, she was just so complimentary to our staff and our police department in the support that they provided to her over the weekend. And she's got some unique personal situation where she can't just up and leave her house, and to know that she was being protected was really heartening for her and her family. And also she mentioned that many of the lawmakers and across party lines were talking so much about Melissa Hortman and the kindness she brought to the job and just to everyday life. And if you listen to some of her neighbors speak, I think that's a takeaway that we can share. I know that at the legislature, they're taking away, bringing kindness into the world. And I'm certainly going to work on that. And there are a lot of things that we do that are really serious, and we have to take a lot of responsibility. And then I also recognize that we don't always have to take ourselves so seriously. And sometimes it's just a matter of helping our neighbors and being as kind as possible. So those are my comments. And again, I'm compelled to thank staff and the police department, Chief Borboom and Mr. Funk, who were really communicative and engaged that weekend when it was really terrifying and there was so much uncertainty. And Minnetonka was not unique in this, but I also am aware that not every city had the level of communication that we had that weekend. So thank you.
Here we go. Thank you, Councilmember Shack, and now I will go to Councilmember Rameli.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, echoing all of my colleagues' previous comments, I think a lot of us knew Speaker Emerita Hortman and, could testify or confirm, what a leader that she was and what a terrific person she was viewed by from both sides of the aisle. And that also, I think, I'd like to kind of affirm that all of us elected officials from every level on down, from the federal level on down to the city level and school board, it is our responsibility to, set the tone in terms of civility and respect for each other and, for our constituents. And I can't, emphasize enough, how important it is to try to see the perspective of other people, understand it, appreciate it, and respond civilly. To argue our differences on the merits and with respect and civility. So I also feel like it's our responsibility as citizens, not just as electeds, to also do that. We can say that we take our tenor or take our tone from our electeds, but we all have a choice in how we choose to respond and show up in the world, and think about what example we're setting for our children. So with that, I'll just end and say it's been a tragic last week and a half, and I think we've yet to see how this reverberates. Hopefully, the one very silver lining to this will be that people will start thinking about how they're acting and speaking and interacting, whether on social media or in real life. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Rameli. I appreciate all the comments of my fellow council members, and clearly this has been a very tragic period of time in our state. And I shared with a group of mayors that I'm horrified by what happened, but I have to admit to a feeling of shame that this happened in our state. I like to think that we do things the right way in Minnetonka and in Minnesota, and what a horrific thing that happened, and it's another black eye to a certain degree on our state. Some of the things that have happened here, throughout history, but in recent history, is just very, very sobering. But I also want to go back to the reality of. I want to first of all thank my fellow council members for their good effort and for their work, because I really do believe that I know that there are a lot of different political perspectives represented at this dais, but we do treat each other with respect, and we are modeling behavior, and that is what we need to do for our residents, because we need to be better than the way things look like we have been of late, and so I'm hopeful. I think that again, I said this 2 weeks ago, we can disagree without vilifying the person that we're disagreeing with. People have perspectives on all sides of issues, and sometimes people are even right, but a lot of times they're not. But no one deserves to be hated or vilified because of what they say, unless their speech is hateful, or we need to respect one another, and if we can treat people with respect, we can elevate the discourse. And so I think to my colleagues here at the dais and staff, I think we do a pretty good job of that. We can always do better, and I believe in continuous improvement. We're committed to excellence as a city, but these are real people. And the other thing that dawned on me, and I just want to mention it briefly, is we've all signed up to run for office, and but do our spouses really sign up for that? But they're connected too very closely. And we really need to be thankful and respectful to our families, because when we choose to be in the public eye, to a lesser degree, but to a degree we're putting them in the public eye, and we see that, I mean, it wasn't just Melissa Hortman who was killed, her husband was killed. And that's very, very sobering, that we owe, well, all of you a debt of gratitude for the work that you do, but we also owe our families and our spouses and our children a debt of gratitude because they didn't sign up for it, but they get some of the same things that we sometimes face. And so I think we just need to take a step back, take a deep breath, be respectful and be compassionate. We really need to be compassionate toward one another in challenging times. So I'll leave it at that. I'm very excited that Councilmember Foster Bolton's son ended up with a good housing situation. I mentioned a number of weeks ago about a young woman who I've been helping who has been homeless, and she's landed as well in a good housing situation. And it's thanks to the programs that the city of Minnetonka has and some enlightened developers who participate with us that have made some of these things possible. So I'm just, it's real. I mean, it's great to know that we're doing good work in our city and we're helping people, but it's so gratifying when you know somebody who's benefiting, and you're really realizing the work that we do makes a difference in real people's lives. That to me is, that's, as I look at my career as a public servant, that's at the top of the list. I made a difference, and we worked together and we made differences in people's lives, and that's why we do this. So thank you all. Anything else? I knew that was going to take a little longer than normal, but I think it was important that we all had an opportunity to share. So next on the agenda is item 8, which is citizens wishing to discuss matters not on the agenda. So this is an open mic opportunity. And if you have something that you would like to share with the council, please come forward, state your name and address, and tell us what you want us to know. We will not take any action on what you report tonight, but we will refer it to staff, and you will get feedback based upon what you've reported. But is there anyone who would like to come forward and share? Is there anyone? Good evening.
Good evening. Kevin Ringhofer, 2200 Indian Road West. Yes, in light of the circumstances and violence that have happened over the past week, I just want to thank you as a council for how you model showing each other respect in terms of whether you disagree, how you model your respect for the staff. I just think there's more of that. I cringe sometimes when I see some of the things that elected officials have said and taken the opportunity to say. It's pretty disappointing. So I guess I would say that's one of the things that I'm most proud of, to be from Minnetonka, is to watch the work you do and how respectful you are. So thank you, and thank you, staff.
Thank you, Mr. Ringhofer. Is there anyone else? Anyone? All right, seeing no one, we will move on. Next item is bids and purchases, and we have none of those tonight. Item 10 on the agenda is the consent agenda, and these are typically items that are routine. I will read these items into the record, and we will vote on them in one motion and one vote, unless someone either in the audience or on the council would like to pull an item. Then we will handle that item separately. We will vote on the items that haven't been pulled, and then we'll return to that. And then just as a reminder, we had an addendum tonight. So item on the agenda right now that is 10C is moving to 13A as a public hearing. And so we will have items 13A, B, and now new C and new D. So I'll read them into the record. Item 10A is Urban County Consortium CDBG Consolidated Pool Opt-in Resolution. Item 10B is the preliminary and final plat for Tammy Addition, a two-lot subdivision at 15503 Robinwood Drive. Item 10C, formerly 10D, is an ordinance amending several sections of the zoning ordinance pertaining to interim uses. And item 10D, formerly E, is the resolution requesting funding from the 2026 State of Minnesota capital budget. So would anyone like to pull anything, or is there a motion? Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I move approval of the consent agenda items 10A, 10B, 10C, and 10D.
Very good. Is there a second? Councilmember Wilburn.
Second.
All right. A motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Wilburn. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romaley,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Wearsome.
Yes, motion carries. Item 11 is consent agenda items requiring 5 votes. We have none of those tonight. Item 12 is introduction of ordinances, and we have none of those. And item 13 is public hearings, and we have one. 13A is a public hearing on the preliminary and final plat with floodplain alteration permit of Hidden Valley 3rd Edition at 16515 Hidden Valley Road. And Ms. Thomas, I believe you have the report on that.
Thank you, Mayor Wearsome. Council members, as was outlined in the Planning Commission staff report, Lacey Brothers Construction is proposing to remove the existing home on this Hidden Valley Road property and divide that property then into 2 lots. The Planning Commission report again did note that these lots would meet or exceed all minimum lot area and dimensional standards. The subdivision would also meet the tree protection ordinance. To accommodate the 2 homes, there would be some floodplain alteration that would need to occur, essentially to reconfigure that floodplain area. As is required by code, the actual floodplain storage volume on the site would remain. It's just really the location and shape of that floodplain storage area that would be changed. As the mayor noted, this proposal does require several items or approvals: a preliminary plat, final plat, floodplain alteration permit, and vacation of easements. And it's this vacation which required this item to be removed to the non-consent portion of your agenda. The easements that exist right now are shown on the left. This is on the easterly property. They cover the existing floodplain area as well as just our standard drainage and utility easements. These easements would not appropriately cover the new floodplain area and utility areas, and so the vacation is requested essentially to get rid of the obsolete easements, and they would be reestablished with the final plat. All notices to area residents and the public hearing notification that was in the newspaper did include that vacation of easement request. It was my error in the agenda order that placed it in the wrong position. So all other notices, I just want to reiterate, were correct in this. The Planning Commission and staff recommend approval then of the preliminary and final plats. They meet all ordinance standards. We recommend approval of the floodplain alteration. It meets ordinance standard as well as engineering standards, and then vacation of those easements. And I would turn it back to the mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. And relax. You make very few mistakes. We've worked with together for a long time, so every once in a while, not a big deal. I think we can cover this one. So, but council, any questions for Ms. Thomas on this? I think it's pretty straightforward. All right, but this is a public hearing, so we do have to open the public hearing. And is there anyone who would like to come and comment on this item? It's not required, but you're welcome to if you'd like. Is there anyone? I have to ask 3 times, so I'm going to ask one more time. Would anyone like to comment on this item? All right, then we'll close the public hearing, and we'll bring it back to the council for a motion and a vote. Councilmember Calvert?
Thank you, Mayor. I move approval of item 13A to approving the proposal.
And is there a second? Councilmember Romali?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Romali. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romali,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Weersum.
Yes, motion carries. Item 14 is other business, and we have no other business tonight. Item 15 is appointments and reappointments, and we have one reappointment. It is the item 15A is a DEI Commission Young Adult Reappointment. And Mr. Funk, I believe you were going to take that one.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Good evening again, Council. So really, as the Mayor introduced, this is a appointment for a young adult for our DEI Commission. We've had a resignation, unfortunately, and so what this action does tonight is to appoint, I hope I get the pronunciation correctly.
Joaquin
Palingo to the...
Pliego.
Thank you for all the
My
assistance.
high school Espanol, okay?
So this would be a one. Thank you for all the assistance.
Joaquin Pliego.
As noted by the Mayor, to serve a 1-year term effective July 1st, 2025, and expiring on June 30th, 2026. And so we do have youth representation on our DEI Commission, and so this is merely replacing someone that has left us, and the Mayor has indicated his support for the applicant, and turn back to you, Mayor and Council, for action.
All right, and Mr. Funk, thank you very much. And yet, it's great that Joaquin has stepped up, and we will have youth on a youth representative on our DEI Commission. So, I'll make this motion. Is there a second? Councilmember Calvert?
Happy to second.
All right, so we've got a motion and a second. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romali,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Weersum.
Yes, motion carries. Item 16 is adjournment. Councilmember Wilburn, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move adjournment.
Very good. And is there a second? Councilmember Calvert?
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Wilburn, a second by Councilmember Calvert. All in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. And before again, I want to thank all of you for serving. Challenging weeks, and there's going to be more challenging weeks ahead as we honor Representative Representative Hortman, and I know let's see, her title is Emerita, Speaker Emerita. Those are going to be some challenging moments in the days and weeks ahead, and but thank you all for your service. Have a good night.
Same to you.